They are stuck on stupid. But yet they so wholeheartedly believe in what they believe in. It has become their religion. And they will fight you tooth and nail to either convert you to it, to subjugate you to it, or as we see in a recent poll that just came out, these folks that identify as far left, a plurality believes that President Trump should be assassinated. A plurality believes that Elon Musk should be shot. Over 55% believe and support Tesla dealerships being firebombed. That's what we're up against. Now, folks will sit around and say, hey, Colonel, we're good to go here in Wyoming. No, you're not. Because when you think about the playbook of the progressive socialist left and what they do, they will come into a red state. They will fight you in a red state. They will take over your major urban population centers. And the next thing you know, you wake up, your state's blue. Don't believe me? Go outside this building, turn to the south, and look at your neighbor. That brain-dead idiot that's the governor of Colorado, I served in Congress with. I said it. Listen, brain-dead idiot. Okay? I'm sorry. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and I'll call you out. If you are standing up for things that are the antithesis to this constitutional republic, we have a duty to call them out. Thomas Paine once said this: the duty of a true patriot is to defend their country from its government. So if you're calling yourself a patriot, that's your duty. Thomas Paine prescribed to you. So I want you to understand that when you think about the playbook of the left, when you look at a state like Washington, and you look at it broken down by county, there is red all over the state of Washington except for a couple of places. Seattle, Tacoma area. You look at the state of Colorado, broken down by county. There's red all over the place except for Denver and Boulder and Colorado Springs, Fort Collins. When you start to look at the map of Wyoming, and you know exactly what I'm going to talk about now, you're behind enemy lines, even though you're in this solid red state. When I think about my home state of Georgia, the largest landmass state east of the Mississippi River, 159 counties in the state of Georgia, red all over the place, except for 5 spots. Atlanta, Fulton County, Macon, Savannah, Augusta, Columbus, where Fort Benning is. That's why we have 2 avowed socialists as senators from the state of Georgia. When I think about the state of Texas, where I live now, 254 counties. In this last election cycle, President Trump won Texas by 15 percentage points. Ted Cruz won his Senate race by almost 10 percentage points. 12 of 14 border counties went red in the state of Texas. But Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, El Paso, all blue. The major urban population centers. If we don't start fighting and taking back our population centers, our cities, our important gathering spots in our respective red states, it's a matter of time. We are fighting against an ideology that is not going to go away. When Democrats are in the majority, they are tyrannical. When they are in the minority, they are tenacious. And that's what you see right now. You would have thought that after the results of this November 2024 election cycle, they would have said, hey, what the Sam Hill did we do wrong? How did we lose all of these battleground states? What is wrong with our messaging? What can we go out and do better? Let's sit down and have a self-reflecting moment. No. You're still a racist. You're still a Nazi. You still need to be beaten up. You still need to have your car etched in with a swastika. Although, this is so funny. Nazi stood for National Socialist. It didn't stand for National Conservative. Or when you have a group out there called Antifa, which stands for anti-fascist, we're supposedly the fascists, but yet they go around beating up people because they say things that they don't want to hear. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a defining moment for us as Americans. And we cannot retreat from this. And the most important thing you have to do, I'm the chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party. Our motto is fight local, win national. Too many people pay attention up here to the major leagues, the Colorado Rockies, Atlanta Braves, whoever. But no one pays attention to the farm team. The real strength of a Major League Baseball team is the farm team. If you're not developing your talent at the single A level and the double A level and the triple A level, you're never going to have a championship Major League Baseball team. And where's the single A level? It's right here. You got a mayor that you guys need to replace. Where's the city councilman? You need to make sure he gets some help on the city council. You got a city manager that doesn't even live here. How does Sam Hill does that happen? It's not even that they're outside the city. They're outside the dadgum state. How do you tolerate that? That's why it's so important that we understand that local level elections are vital. The number one elected position, the most important elected position in the United States of America is school board. The election that has the least amount of voter participation in the United States of America is school board. Then all of a sudden, when you're locked into your house because some aspect of tyranny told you even if you're healthy you can't go outside, and you're there with your child who can't go to school because another aspect of tyranny said the schools are shut down, then all of a sudden you look over your kid's shoulder and you say, what in the Sam Hill are you studying? What are you doing? And now all of a sudden you realize why school boards are important. And then all of a sudden you show up at a school board meeting and somebody says that you're a domestic terrorist because you're concerned about the education of your own child. Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, they all once said that your children are not your own. They belong to us. If there's anything that should get you dogfighting mad, remember that line, Clint Eastwood, Outlaw Josie Wales? When you get into a fight, you got to get dogfighting mad. We're in a fight. You got to be dogfighting mad. Now, maybe we don't have the time to go out there and stand on the street corner with stupid signs because we work and we have businesses. But what you got to do is you got to call out the people with the stupid signs. Because if they end up having the voice, if they end up being the ones that the people see, and they don't see you, they don't hear you. Remember Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi minister of propaganda? What did he say? If you tell a lie over and over and over and over enough, people will eventually take it as truth. And this is where we are in the United States of America. So it's incumbent upon you, if you want to keep Wyoming a red state, if you want to make sure that what is happening south of you does not come across the border and overtakes you, you got to start reclaiming your cities. You got to start helping out these people that are running locally. You got to make sure that you're focusing here and not always worrying about what's going on up here in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. does not affect your everyday life right here in Laramie, Wyoming. And the other thing you need to do, you need to support these organizations like Turning Point. These young people are behind enemy lines every single day. They're fighting against their peers. They're fighting against their professors. They're fighting against the administration. And you need to let folks know that we're not going to tolerate that here. Because if you don't, That's just a petri dish, a training ground for the next generation of Marxists, socialists, and communists. Who would have ever thought, it's unconscionable to me, that we would have young people in the United States of America siding with an Islamic terrorist organization that killed Americans, holding Americans hostage. Who would have ever thought that we would have our children, our college students, siding and locking and chaining themselves up to inanimate objects on a college or university campus for a knucklehead that's here on a guest visa that's inciting violence against Americans? Who would ever thought that we'd have a judge that would say, you can't deport terrorists, Mr. President? I would have put that judge on a plane and sent his butt down there to El Salvador, okay? But when we're not teaching them, talking about our Constitution, we don't truly understand the three branches of government, their duties, their roles, their responsibilities, their purviews, their jurisdictions, then all of a sudden we think that the judge can tell the President of the United States of America that you cannot fire people in the executive branch when the very first sentence of Article 2 in the Constitution says executive power is vested into the President of the United States of America. This is what happens when you don't carry this around with you. This is what happens when you don't study. What did God tell Joshua? He said, the book of the law, you shall not turn from it from the right or to the left. You shall meditate upon it day and night. You will have success and prosperity wherever you go. We don't discuss the Constitution. We don't discuss the Declaration of Independence. We've got these progressive socialists that are telling us that the United States of America was not established on July the 4th of 1776. It was established in 1619. And we allow them to get away with it. Look, we sent a message in November that we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. But if you think right now that you can just hang up that full armor that it talks about in Ephesians chapter 6, 13 through 18, if you think that you can hang up your full armor and just coast in, you got another thing coming. These people are not going away. Anyone that believes that criminal illegal immigrants should stay in this country, raping and killing our women, anyone believes, like what you saw in Aurora, Colorado, that non-state, non-uniform belligerents can come into this country illegally and acquire firearms and take over an apartment building, and as Martha Raddatz said, it's just an apartment building. That's unconscionable. Anyone that believes that you should be able to come into this country illegally and vote, or come into this country illegally and still be counted in our census, which affects the reapportionment and redistricting of our representative districts. If you're not a citizen, you do not get to be represented. But if you don't stand up and say these things, if you're too worried about, hey, Colonel, I don't want to lose my friends on Facebook. You know, I built up my X account. I don't want to, you know. If you're worried about that, then remember when you turn from Joshua over to Judges, and it said the generation of Joshua and all those generations died off, and the children of Israel fell down and worshiped the Baals. After Joshua had told them, remember the Lord. Remember what he did for you. Remember how he took you out of bondage and brought you to this land. Remember how you conquered all of these enemies. And then they forgot it. One of the gods of the Baals is a god named Moloch. Moloch is the god of child sacrifice. I don't think it's cool to go into a womb, the safest place for a child, and dismember it. It's just not. And we've got to come out of our comfort zones and speak truth to power. That means to some of your pastors. Some of your pastors are getting up there giving you that happy to glad message. 250 years ago, pastors came out of the pulpit. They formed what was called the Black Robe Regiment. They went out and they fought on the battlefield. They led regiments because they believed that the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So it's very simple. Are you going to make a stand today? Are you going to get outside of your comfort zone? Are you going to sit back and watch Wyoming go the way of Colorado? Go the way of Washington State? Go the way of Virginia even? Or will you do as William Barrett Travis did on the 5th of April of 1836 in a little place called the Alamo? And he drew a line in the sand. And he said, if you will make a stand, come across the line and stand with me. And those 183, even though they knew they had no aspect of anyone coming to their rescue, that following morning, on the 6th of April of 1836, all 183 were slaughtered. But they bought time for Sam Houston. So that on the 21st of April of 1836, in 18 minutes, the ragtag bunch of Texans defeated Santa Anna at a battlefield called San Jacinto. That's the story of America. God doesn't call the equipped, but he will equip those that answer his call. The story of America is about ordinary men and women doing extraordinary things at a time of need. Will you do something extraordinary in this time where your country needs you? I love it out here, but I see the dangers that you're facing. When I'm driving over to this venue and I see the face of tyranny standing in front of your courthouse, you're in a fight. You're in a fight that will define you. Because I don't care what you do in your life. I hope you get to buy TikTok and switch over that algorithm, because it's poisoning the minds of our kids. But what really will define you is if you pass liberty and freedom on. That's the same for each and every one of us. If we pass that on for our children and grandchildren. Let me close by saying this. My dad was a World War II veteran. I want you to think about it. A black man born in 1920 in South Alabama, who jumped the Chattahoochee River, grew up in South Georgia. But when his country called upon him, he didn't say, y'all don't treat me right. You don't look at me as an equal. He said much the same as Isaiah said. Here am I. Send me. That man who fought in World War II, wounded in Italy, looked at his 15-year-old son on the steps of his house in Atlanta, Georgia. He said, there's no greater honor, boy, than to wear the uniform of the United States of America. And you were going to be the first officer in our family, because he was just a corporal in the Army. My older brother was just a lance corporal in the United States Marine Corps, served in Vietnam in a place called Khe Sanh. And he said, you're going to be better. That's what we do for our children and grandchildren. We set the conditions for them to pass on greatness. We teach them about the greatness of this nation. We teach them to be victors and not victims. So when you leave out of here, choose for yourselves today whom ye shall serve. Being the gods of tyranny, little g, of leftism, progressivism, socialism, communism, and Marxism, or the God that endowed you with your inalienable rights of life, liberty, property, if you understand natural rights theory written by John Locke. Those are your inalienable rights. And how dare anybody tell you how much water you can flush in your toilet, what kind of shower heads you can have in your house, what kind of car you can drive, what kind of food you can eat, what kind of house you can build, how much electricity you can have, what kind of light bulb you can have. You can't go outside your house. It's time to tell them to hell with you. God bless you all. What are your questions? I got time to take questions. I want to hear from you all now. I didn't do that good. Yes, ma'am.
You know a little bit, my whole life has been focused on the federal government. Now that I'm retired and I live locally, I'm seeing at the local level, we gotta get along. We gotta get along. It's defeatism, you can't get it through their heads that you gotta fight for what your dreams are. And you don't just get along because they're gonna walk right all over you. How do you get a mindset changed? It's pervasive, especially at the local, Laramie, city council. We're primarily Republicans in this county. Why are we allowing the blue to walk all over us? That's what I don't get. I need a colonel like you to come in here and drum us all up, because I'll tell you.
That's why I'm here.
It's frustrating, totally frustrating.
Yeah, but the thing is that, as I said, when you leave here, what are you going to do? When you say, oh, that was a really nice speech the Colonel gave. And then tomorrow's just another day. You got to be committed to a fight. America is not a country of fearful men and women. That ain't our history when you study and understand it. And so to say that you want to get along and go along with evil, I'm sorry. Satan is a liar. And you cannot get along and go along with evil. Okay, let me put it in these terms. I'm a combat commander. I'm over there in Iraq. We have a firefight against the enemy. Tough firefight. We got to, take this village. We take the village. I lose some of my troops. But then after we take this village, I go over and find the ISIS commander, whomever. I say, hey man, look here. How about we cut a deal? How about, I'll let you have 40% of the village and we'll keep 60% and we can be cool, right? No. No. To the victor goes the spoils. Let me tell you something. We had an incredible victory in November. We need to act like we had a victory. We need to make these people understand that we're going to crush you. We're going to crush your ideology. We're not going to get along with you. We're not going to be afraid of you. We're going to stand toe-to-toe against you. Just be the quiet professionals. Don't be like those Navy SEALs. They're always making movies and everything like that. They want everybody to know what they're doing, okay? Be like the Delta Force guys. Be like the Green Beret. Every single one of you should have a battle buddy. Who's your battle buddy? Who's the person that's going to help you to stay sharp? And then after that, form your A teams. Groups of 12. And every single one of you in your A team, you should have a region. You should have an area here in Laramie that you're responsible for. Because you're fighting against an insurgency. And so how do you do that? You get in and you go inside that insurgency. And you disrupt their operations. So I want you, I remember when people used to laugh that Barack Obama was a community organizer. We need to community organize. We need to get a strong grassroots ground game. We need to confront them. We need to get inside their decision cycle. We need to find out their social media platforms and everything. We need to start messaging the truth to them. Frustrate them. You don't have to go back and forth with them. But you know something? When they call you a name, you're winning. They're calling you a name because they believe that you'll get uncomfortable. I don't want to be called racist. I don't want to call it, it hurts my feelings. It ain't about your feelings. If they're calling you a name, that means that they don't have a comeback. And what do? You press the attack. You stay on. You got to be relentless. You got to take away their will to fight. That's how you win on the battlefield. Next question.
When? Yeah. So,
Congresswoman West, I have, I have seen the movement and the Tea Party movement came along and as our grassroots. My question is about-
Good point. What happened to the Tea Party movement? See, the Tea Party movement prided itself in being independent, but they really didn't have a centralized organization. So what did the left do? They attacked it in bits and pieces. Remember how the old Greeks used to fight? They locked their shields, created that impenetrable phalanx. That's how we have to fight. Because what they did, they turned the IRS on them. They took away 501c3 statuses. They, forced them to do things. And the next thing you know, they collapsed. We can have a great, strong grassroots movement, but we have to be together. We have to lock our shields and fight as one. I'm sorry.
And at the time, I think, 2011, like you were mentioning about the school districts, about how they're going to take over. Now it's 2025, and we're seeing the results. But we have like this propaganda in the classroom where reading, writing, and arithmetic is like second thing. Like not only about the constitution of the country is second thing, but about gender ideology to kids. Like we are falling behind not in the global stage, we're falling behind as humanity, as people. So how can we combat this corrosive ideology?
Sure, I got it. Anybody here ever heard of South Lake, Texas? What happened in South Lake, Texas? In South Lake, Texas, the left that came in with this thing, the Critical Competency Action Plan. It was another name for CRT, but it was cultural Marxism. And what the folks in South Lake, Texas did, they formed the South Lake Families PAC. And they went out and raised money, and they went out and got school board candidates, and they wholeheartedly got behind these candidates, went out and got out there, did a grassroots movement, door knocking and everything. Normally in a school board race, what, 6%? 8%? They had a 60+% turnout in their school board race. They smacked the left down. You know what they did? They angered the left so much, NBC did a documentary attacking South Lake, Texas. Google it, look it up. That's what you need to do. That's a great lesson learned. That's a great blueprint of what you need to do. Call up the folks down in South Lake, Texas, and say, give us that playbook so that we can do it right here. And it can be done. But remember what I said? You got to go out there and fight this insurgency. You've got to get people to come out. You've got the people to understand. Too many people, I'm sorry, ladies, I'm going to say this very bluntly. Too many people got their head up their ass. They just do. Unstick your head. Start paying attention to what's going on, especially with your schools. Leftists, the first thing they do when they come into a red state, they run for city council, they run for school board, they run for county commission, they run for everything locally. And then you turn around and you say, what does Sam Hill have? Next question. Nobody's going to ask about China. Everybody good? Everybody cool with China? Y'all think China's great? Anybody? Going once? Okay.
Election integrity.
Yes, sir.
Stalin. Doesn't matter who you vote for, it matters who counts your vote.
Joseph Stalin.
And I now have video of them changing the SD card on our machine. We need paper ballots, we need the hand count. We need the fact that the county Republican Party doesn't hold the clerk at hand.
Do you have an elected clerk or appointed?
Elected clerk. Been a Democrat in a Republican county for over 50 years because, damn it, they cheat. I have them on video. I have them opening, if we don't even take the keys and seal the machines like the law requires us to. And they open the machine at 5 o'clock in the morning and change the SD card.
Yep.
Change the calibration. And I get zero support for going after the clerk. And if we don't have fair elections, we don't have elections.
No, you're right. Okay, two things. What level of governance decides the processes and procedures for your elections? No, they don't. It's the county.
The secretary.
It's the county. The county commission has the ability to set the processes and procedures by which your elections are done. They do.
It's the state of Wyoming.
Oh, so it's different. I mean, but I can tell you, in Texas, it's a county thing. And that's why we have the concerns, because in Dallas County, we got all Democrats. So it's hard to fight. But then, again, I thought you had a Republican state. So if that be the case, then why aren't you passing the laws and enforcing the laws?
You met our governor?
Hey, look, I just got here. I just got to zip through Cheyenne. And then, but the other thing, okay, if it's not at the county level to set those processes and procedures, because, I mean, they're the ones that should be getting your election judges and all that type of stuff. Your sheriff. Your sheriff is an elected constitutional officer.
Not unless they cheat.
Okay?
And
Should
when
never
I,
have won.
Then I will come back to my previous statement. They're an elected individual. How did they get elected? How does the supervised election get elected? And so, again, you need to have a better game countywide to make sure that these individuals are not the ones getting elected. And you need to find someone, and you need to get behind them. And don't dilute your vote by having 4 or 5 different people, and you have a primary, and then you kill each other in the primary. Pick one, as Stephen said, pick one person to be your man or woman in the arena. One person.
let's not support a sheriff for a guy that came out of Alameda County, California, the sheriff. Let's
Well,
not do
that's y'all's business. Y'all figure that out. Okay? Y'all figure it out. All right, last question. Going once? Going twice?
When are you coming back?
Not in the winter. Okay? Because I met some crazy people here. They say, I love the cold. I think it's great. No, cold sucks. You know what? You know why you love the cold? Because you never had to sleep in it, okay? If you had to sleep in the cold, you would understand it sucks, okay? But look, let me.
So what's next for you?
Okay, the question is, what's next for me? I don't know. No, I'm serious. This is what I tell people. When you read Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5 through 6, you know what it says? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not upon your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. He'll guide your paths. I don't try to move the chess piece of my life. A year or so ago, when someone came up with a goofy idea, we want Colonel West to come to Laramie, Wyoming, here I am. I just know that I have to be where the Lord would have me to be, and I have to be obedient to His will. And if as long as I'm obedient to His will, as long as I continue to serve this great nation, I'll be all right. So, I don't know. I know that I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get in the car with Zach, and we're going to drive back down to Denver International Airport, and I'll fly my little merry, happy little ass back to Dallas, Texas. Okay? So that's it. Look. Resolve. That's what it's about. You have to show resolve. We are up against people that think in 50 to 100-year cycles. We cannot win on this battlefield thinking in election cycles. We have to have long-term strategic vision. China knows exactly how they got to this point. As a matter of fact, how many of y'all saw that video of Nancy Pelosi in 1996 on the House Representative floor where she's speaking against giving China most favored trade nation status in 1996? And we did it. Our own side did it, supported it. Do you know what our trade deficit was with China on her chart, 1996? Our trade deficit with China in 1996 was $34 billion. What's our trade deficit with China today? Hundreds Almost $1 trillion since 1996 to now. See, that's what happens when you don't have strategic vision. And what did it say in the Bible? My people suffer for lack of knowledge and vision. God bless you all. Thank you so much.